Here.
Brenda Brown.
Present.
Bob Iverson.
Yeah.
Heidi Patel. Jim Pichard.
Present.
Carolyn Wands.
Present.
Chairman Mike Poor.
Present.
6 present.
6 present. We do have a quorum. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes. These will be the minutes from the July 13th meeting. If there's no corrections, need a motion to approve those, please. I think.
Is there a motion to
Need a
approve?
motion to approve, right? Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Gonna be slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Item number 3, we have the agenda. There are no, nothing to remove from the agenda, so need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Chairman's comments at this time have none. Thank you. Item number 6 is the approval of the payrolls. These will be from the August 6th run. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
Chairman, we just need to make sure there's no audience comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip right over that?
That's okay. I don't have any yellow cards. Did anyone wish to speak this evening? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I was in a hurry, I guess.
Okay.
I still don't have any comments. The payrolls, item number 6 from August 6th. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, questions on payrolls? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman O'Kane.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Iverson.
Yes.
Patel. Pichard.
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Item number 7 will be the approval of the vouchers payable. These will be from the August 10th run. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, questions on the payables? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Iverson.
Yes.
Patel. Pichard.
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
O'Kane.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Item number 8, we have Public Transportation Director Beath, items of information, your monthly report.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I just wanted to point out that ridership is still down. So we're thinking of some ideas out of the box to see if we could get someone to maybe do a study of some sort to help us decide, what it is that's happening that's keeping the ridership away. So anyhow, we hope to see that. I mean, it's down, it's come up a little bit, but not much. So we really want to get back to those pre-COVID numbers if we can do that. If you looked at our website, you'll see that we did suspend a couple of routes because we are so low on personnel and at the time vehicles. But in the meantime, the vehicle situation has improved and the personnel issue has improved, but they're not ready to go out on their own yet. So we still have trainees that we're working with, but those were 2 low ridership routes and they had another route that complemented them the other half of the hour. So we were able to suspend those 2 without too much of an impact. But again, we want to get those routes back in service just as quickly as we can. During the month of August, we've already had both our Stuff the Bus campaign and our vaccination clinic. So I'll just start real quick with the vaccination clinic. We had on the 2nd of August, we had about 10 people receive their vaccination. And the IDPH staff reached out to us to see if we would be willing to host another event because apparently, they've hosted events where no one showed up. So they were really excited about 10 people. And we were really excited about 10 people because, you would be shocked to hear some of the questions that people ask because they just don't have the, they don't have the information that we are exposed to. And the questions they have are very elementary questions, but, to them, that's very important. So anyhow, we were really excited to have 10 people get vaccinated at our clinic. They'll be back on the 23rd for the 2nd dose of the Pfizer. The Stuff the Bus campaign that was kicked off the same day. I just had Gary Hackler at WITY give me a little bit of update about what exactly we were able to accomplish that week. We had 5 different locations where we set up, and people brought both donations of school supplies and money. And when they brought the money, then the staff at WITY went out and purchased some school supplies to put in the bus. So he says we estimate that there were over 10,000 pieces of school supplies dropped off. They distributed about a third of the supplies at the event for DDI at the Danville Public Library. We also stored supplies at District 118 and Faith Ministries for distribution to our public and our parochial schools. So it says we have about 15% left to distribute to Westville and Georgetown. So we had a very good week. We had a good time. Gary's been very good about putting the word out about needing drivers. So, maybe we'll get some bites from that. But anyhow, I think that's a good partnership. And, perhaps we can just, kind of springboard from that and do a few more other things that, that could help get the word out about Danville Mass Transit. And then the only other thing I have to talk about, I sent the mayor and Alderman or Chairman Poor a question about our DBE program. So last year, if you recall, we approved our DBE program, which is typically a 3-year program. But with our triennial review, there were some shortcomings in our program. And so we were able to get those fixed, and we want to bring it back to you. They're really very minor changes, but it did change the overall goal for our DBE participation. So we'll be bringing that straight to council. Chairman said that would be okay if we just came straight to council with it. So I'll get those emailed to everyone so you can look at it through the week and be prepared for next
Yeah,
Tuesday.
she just got
night.
that finished up today, and I said, there's no need to bring it tonight, and us try and read through it and everything else. Easier just to get it in advance of the council meeting and act on it then.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Director Bees? Yeah, well, thank you for your efforts. That's quite an accomplishment. Okay, moving on to item number 9, Public Works, Director Carpenter. We have 9A, a resolution approving the purchase of a 2021 New Way automated refuse truck. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Comments?
Just let everybody know this will be replacing, I do have the VIN number for the one it will be replacing, put on the agenda for the full council, so you know. But it's our old number 93 unit, which is one of the original 4 trucks we bought in 2007. It's really worn out, got more miles on it than the rest of them. This will get us to where we only have one of the old original automated trucks running, and it will strictly be used for a backup unit if something else is broken down. We've had a lot of good luck, I guess you would say, with the New Way bodies. They're a little bit more durable. We haven't had the expense to repair them. The Peterbilt chassis or Kenworth chassis, same company. It's a good chassis. This will be the 3rd truck we have of them. No issues with either one of the other 2 that we have at this time. So that's why we're going to go with this same model again this year.
Okay.
What kind of normal lifetime do we get out of those, Carl, on average? How long will they last, a unit like that?
Well, we've had the original ones for 14 years.
14.
Typically, you're supposed to only run them for 7 to 8 years.
So we got our money out of it.
We've actually spent more on repairs for most of them now than we paid for the original.
This
14
new one,
years
I
ago.
think I seen where it would be a lot less maintenance and repair probably.
Yep. And then if you look at the cost, it's only $7,000 more than the one we bought 2 years ago. This one, I've already spoke to the distributor, should be to us within 5 months. That last one, when COVID hit and the New Way plant in Iowa burnt to the ground, we were like 17 months, I think, from the time we ordered it to the time we got it. So even though there's a lot of issues with manufacturers of vehicles right now, they do have these cabs and chassis on the lot, so we should be in good shape.
Other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Iverson,
Yes.
Patel, Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Poor, 6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 9B is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Farnsworth Group Incorporated for the Beard Street reconstruction. Need a motion to put that on the table.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Sam, I'll let you
I'm going
take
to do
it.
that one.
So the project that we're proposing here is basically reconstructing Beard Street from a little bit south of Main Street to just south of Grove. That's one of our lowest rated streets as far as condition goes. And it's also in a CDBG qualifying area, which is why the funds are available to reconstruct this particular road. So basically the work would involve this phase of it involves survey, design, specifications, and permitting. We'd be hoping to complete that phase of it this winter, bid it out this winter, and then construct it next year with CDBG funds as well.
Alderman O'Kane.
Well, I kind of drove down it and there's one little area that dips down and up, but the rest of it's got curbs and concrete and stuff. What makes that one to replace?
Sure. So just from a pavement condition standpoint, we don't really want, it's rated like I believe a 2 or a 3, which is short of removing and replacing the concrete that's there. There's not really much you can do. It's a concrete road now, so we could overlay it, but that's going to create a lot of issues with other driveways and other stuff. So that was really it's a low enough rating that there's not really a good alternative besides just replace it, I guess. Whereas some of the others, there might be. I know there are roads out there that are worse than this, but there's a few factors that we use. We look at pavement condition rating. We looked at, is it in this eligible CDBG neighborhood so that we're appropriately applying these CDBG funds? And then we also did, kind of a drive-by inventory of housing stock, not like an official rating, but we really looked at for a neighborhood that we felt like road and right-of-way improvements would help stabilize, that neighborhood and renew interest in it. It wasn't so far gone that it was, not salvageable, basically, and a worthwhile investment. So I know that part's a little bit vague. That kind of came down to myself, Logan Kronk, who's the CDBG administrator, and the mayor providing input on those items.
Your sanitary and storm sewer work in that area or what?
There's not sanitary there. The sanitaries are it's in the alley for there, and there's storm sewer just kind of at the intersection there. So there will be minimal storm sewer work, but not a lot.
To me, that's what saves a street is the storm sewer drainage and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't know. I think we don't know the original age of that pavement. I would just expect that it's well beyond its original life expectancy. So
I can't remember any.
I know it's got
roads.
limestone curb there. So I don't know when we stopped putting that in, but probably 20s or 30s, something like that. So
Save those curbs.
yeah.
Steve will use them.
Yeah. Well, they pay for the project, sell them. Other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Patel, Poor,
Yes.
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. 9C is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Farnsworth Group Incorporated for the Garfield Park and Pool Project and amending the fiscal year 21-22 public pool budget. Need a motion to put that on the table.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who wants to take that one?
Sam.
All right. I'll give you the high level. And I do have Zach Knight with Farnsworth Group here tonight as well. So if you have specific questions about, their firm or some of the projects they've done or details of this, feel free to ask him as well. But at a high level, essentially this project, basically the council kind of agreed that the best way to move forward was with a rehabilitation of the existing pool, basically reconstructing the existing pool. There was a lot of feedback that we got from, people concerned about how does this incorporate in the overall park, the condition of the roads, some of the other, just buffers of industrial areas around there. So we added some scope to the project to make sure that we at least at the beginning phase, take a holistic view of how the pool integrates into the park and make sure that it doesn't seem like it's just a pool and a separate park, that it all works cohesively together. We also put budget in there and their scope in the project to look at road improvements that would drive up the construction cost, obviously, but we want to make sure that the design scope covers assessing what that is, and then we can figure out how to phase that in if need be, or just do it all. So that's a few of the changes there. Overall, the scope is, there's a park master plan phase that involves doing survey of the park, assessing what's in there, and coming up with an overall concept long-term for what the park is, including the pool improvements. It includes looking at the property boundaries to make sure that we've got all that stuff right, and we're not just assuming we're building improvements on what we think is our property, but may or may not be. It also includes looking at the bathhouse, because there were some concerns about, is a rehab of the bathhouse really adequate? Is that going to meet our needs? So this initial phase is going to produce kind of an option of what a tear down of the bathhouse and a new bathhouse would look like, as part of that project to improve a piece of it. Beyond that, it would move from that phase based on what we decide. It would move into design phase, and they would be designing, the architectural plans, the engineering drawings, drainage improvements, sidewalks, parking, all of those improvements with the project. Farnsworth Group would also be administering basically helping with the bidding phase of the project. So on this type of project, there's tons of questions that come from contractors because there's so much mechanical equipment and all this other stuff. They would be the most equipped to answer those questions, respond to that stuff, and help administer the actual construction process and oversee construction. So the scope that you see, which is $701,500, includes all of those elements. And, at this stage in the game, because we know generally what we're going to do, but it's not perfect. The way that we've built the budget has basically not a contingency, like an allocation of funds for a specific purpose. So they've allotted a design budget of X amount of dollars for roadway improvements and a design budget of X amount of dollars for landscaping. So depending on whether we go, up in complexity or down in complexity, that could change a little bit. But we're going to try to if we stay focused and stay on task, we think that's the appropriate budget. So does anybody have any questions?
Let's have one question on here. This $700,500, this total amount is coming, said transfer from the general fund reserves.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, there's not, as I think as you're all aware, there's not the pool budget. I think its operating expenses are like 40 or 50,000 a year. So, we didn't touch that piece. There could be, I'm sure there's minimal pool expenses that will happen this year, but there could be stuff that comes up that we still have to deal with there. So we didn't touch that actual operating budget there.
You still got the splash park open, don't you?
The part finally came in, what, Steve, a week ago?
Yeah, a couple weeks.
Yeah, but it's not been installed. It's just basically not worked at all this year.
Yes.
Mrs. Brown and I both said when we were discussing it that we hoped that we took a bigger view, and if we were going to do it right. That's why I'm glad to see what you've got tonight is looking exactly like that. You're not just looking at fixing the pool. How does it tie into the neighborhood? How does it work with the park? I think that's the approach to take. I think make the whole thing a package, not just you have a nice pool and maybe people will know where it is. This will get people to know where it is. The roads will be good parking, connected to the park. It sounds like the way to go to me.
Other comments? Alderman O'Kane.
I may have been the only one, but I thought some other people had some environmental concerns of that area. And it looks like that's just a little bit part of this. I got a concern that this isn't being done before we spend all the other money designing it.
Yeah. So I didn't touch on that one, but we did not ignore that concern. I'd have to look at, let's see which phase that's in. Zach, is that in the preliminary phase? So in the first phase, essentially, we're going to once we come up with a concept or along the way, once we start to refine it, they're going to do, phase one environmental site assessment type of thing where we look at the historical uses of the area and look for any, uses. So that was there a gas station? Was there an industrial site that might have had tanks? And those are things that would identify where we might have concerns and need to do drilling. There's also budget in there for actually doing drilling on the site. And I don't recall the exact number of borings, but
10
it was there 10. That's what it says on there.
enough, because
Yeah.
I go way back in construction, and I know I worked on some of those buildings that are no longer there, and they were, they weren't just simple little wood shops.
Right.
They had other things in it, and that's why I have concerns about that.
Yeah, we think that it will be enough. We've tried to, I think if anything, I leaned on to make sure we had extra in there to make sure we were well covered. Worst case scenario, if more concerns come up than what we think, then we can add a couple more borings and that may change the cost, a couple $1,000s type of thing. So, but we want to figure that out before we get into the final design phase so that we're not burning through money unnecessarily and we choose to back out from the project.
You
So.
get us a synopsis of your phase one when you get it done?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I think, the master plan process too, I would expect that you will have some opportunity. I think it'll be primarily city staff, just so that it doesn't become this huge, scope, because there's not budget to make this a huge community with multiple interactions, type thing for the park. But there'll certainly be opportunity for commentary, on those items as well as certainly at that. I think it'd be wise for us to touch base when we get the concept done to say, hey, this is what we think we've got. This is how we're moving forward. Is everybody all in still? So.
I have another question to Engineer Cole. Since we're, putting this amount of money, all that has to be done with this, just to repair or whatever, what about signage? I'm thinking since that's something new, at that side of the park with a nice signage.
It's here.
Yeah. So we've got scope in there
But what, could you give me some kind of idea
of what it might look like.
Yes, that's what
I think we've got options there, right? So we basically put in there some budget and scope to really look at how would we highlight that signage. I think the
Yeah.
designers will have some recommendations based on their experiences. We'll certainly have the opportunity in the master plan phase to give some insight on what we think we want to see there. And that type of item was one we didn't include it in the original pool budget, but certainly it's in the design scope, for
And
this
that-
project.
That was what I want to know. So if whatever is, we have a say-so about how this signage will look and what
Yep.
we would like to see. As a
Yeah,
council.
absolutely. So, and if this gets approved by council, I would encourage any of you, I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure we'll set up like a big formal, public meeting for this type of thing. But if you have particular ideas of what you'd like to see, I would encourage you to, let me know via email, send me examples or pictures or whatever. And those are things we can consider and relay to the design team. And I don't think there's any source of, the great ideas can come from any source. So certainly we don't want to hold this, just ourselves. So we do want this to be a community project while keeping it on task as a rehabilitation project at the same time. So.
Okay.
One other question, your schedule scope, any way to push that up to possibly get some swimming in?
I'll be honest. I saw it and I thought, do they really think they can get it done this quickly? So I highly doubt it. I think, they're going to be doing construction next year for sure. And I think that we are very aggressive in the time frame as it is. So I'm hopeful that there won't be any delays in the 2023 season based on, this conversation taking several months, which I understand that it does, but I know they have, basically committed to working as diligently and aggressively as they can, but I don't think I could push them any harder. So,
And then there's weather.
yeah, yes. Pray for, what is it? Is it La Nina or El Nino? That's good winters. I'm not sure. One of those.
Okay, so we're basically looking at the swim season of 2023.
That's correct.
Other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Wands, Yes. O'Kane?
Not what I want, but I want a pool in this town. Yes.
Thank you. Brown?
Yeah, I'm going to vote this. I think you all know how I feel about the entire situation. I still think we get a new pool in there. But since the majority is going with this, I can support what we're doing. I'd just like to see and have the council, if it has to go to the community for some good signage, to do something to enhance
Mhm.
besides just the pool and the pool house.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you. Iverson?
I agree with the last two comments, but yes.
Thank you. Patel? Pashard?
Yes, and I'm excited to get it started.
Poor?
Yes,
6 yes.
6 yes, thank you. Good luck. Get her done. Okay, moving on to 9D, items of information.
Sam, you got anything for DATS?
Takes forever, doesn't it?
Basically, we're going to be starting the pavement management project soon, but other than that, no update. So.
As far as projects, we don't have a lot of project update. Dave Reed's group out of the street department continues to repair the edges of the roads that are going to be seal coated. We have had 2 resignations in the street department in the last 3 weeks. Both of them are moving on to different jobs. So we'll be posting for those 2 positions. We did hire a new mechanic in training. It is Michael Corson, Kathy Corson's son, who has recently been honorably discharged from the Marine Corps. He did work for us about 6 years ago in vehicle maintenance for a summer. He's Ford trained out of Parkland College. He's already been a great help to us. So we're glad to have him aboard. Really, that's about it. It's just hot out. We continue doing what we're doing.
I got one up.
Go ahead, Sam.
I know everybody is curious about the status of the Denmark Road project and the sanitary sewer project out there. Sanitary sewer wise, we're nearing completion. We're about 82% complete with that project. I don't know that that's an exact number, but that's what the report says. And then the roadway project, I think as far as number of days, the way that contract works is number of days expended that they've had workable. They have X number of days to complete it. They're about a third of the way done. And we've had some significant delays due to utility relocations of Ameren, Comcast, AT&T on the old Ottawa realignment section. They've all worked pretty diligently with us, but it's not been diligent enough, let's say. So I can't give you an exact time frame, but we're about a third of the way done on that project.
That's for any public works.
Of course, we're going back to Garfield Park again. The play equipment at Garfield Park, maybe.
I can address that.
Okay.
Yeah, it is old. We've removed.
Steve, can you
quite
please
a
come to
bit
the
of it.
mic? Thank you.
Sorry to make Captain gal your comfort.
We've removed quite a bit of the play equipment at Garfield Park, and what's left, frankly, does need to be removed. We've already purchased some the new swing sets to go back in, but we have quite a bit of drainage issues there, and we're hoping that this study and design will address those drainage issues. So I was going to put that play equipment in, what we have already purchased, but I'm going to kind of hold back just a little bit until this is done, because I don't want to create a new problem.
Sure.
So, but yeah, and what we had planned, I've already got the designs and everything for that new play equipment. It is very, very similar to what we put in at Ellsworth. So it'll be nice.
Another question. Matter of fact, I was asked this question the other day about that area in Garfield Park. What about the football, about some goalposts? And some lady asked me about how come we don't have the goalposts? Was Mark Denman School still going to donate theirs? I had no idea, know anything about that.
They came to us.
Football.
Yeah, I don't know, it's been a couple of years ago, the football program asked about those. And we told them that would be okay, but they were going to need to relocate them. Okay. And they never have. I don't know if they're still there or not, but yeah, Again, that football field will probably be tweaked a little bit because right now it's not in an ideal spot. So hopefully with the redesign of the park, we can get that a different alignment of the football field. And
Maybe look at something after that.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alderman Brown, I would like to add that once the pool's done, we can also install their signage, excuse me, ourselves on like Bowman Avenue as you come off of City. I don't know that we could put a sign on 74 without the state approval or not, but we could put signage on Bowman as you come off 74. We could put a sign up Main and Bowman. We can put one at Main and Griffin, directing people north to the pool area, which is something we would definitely want to do as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Alderman Brown, I just wanted to say I had, even as far back as when I was the director at the Boys and Girls Club, concerns about the playground equipment there. And Steve and I had worked together on a grant to put in all new equipment then. And we were chosen, but then Hurricane Katrina happened and they completely diverted all their monies to put all new playgrounds across New Orleans. So then recently, Steve has went back to the drawing board to try to make sure that we have all the things that we need. And more than anything else, we just want to get it right so that the kids have a nice place and the families have a nice place to play. But yes, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. I know, and because Steve does a fine job. I've had to deal with him a couple of times on picnics and things, and he always does nice to work with. It's just that this is something that I've recognized for a few years. And the other day, I just kind of walked through that park when I was just kind of recognizing some things that could be improved, and that's been that way for a long time. So yeah, I understand, but I know Steve and the department does a good job. I just had some questions about it and thought maybe if we can get it hurried along, but he explained why and makes good sense. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Comments?
We're at closed session now, item 10. There is no need for closed session. Excellent. Item 11, items of information. You have something, Mike?
I got a question for future councils.
Do you want to wait? No, that'd be committee members' comments.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to item 12, committee members' comments. Alderman O'Kane.
Okay, last week or so, I had a mother call me about a property across the street from her and I went by and drove by, and I was unbelievable that the city had started doing something already. The vegetation is so high that you can't see the property. I looked up, the taxes are, I think, in limbo. The mother asked if the house could be boarded up because the kids in the neighborhood are getting in it and you can't even see them get into the house and stuff. It's just a regular nightmare. And I was told that until we have possession, or is it the trustees or whatever, we can't touch that property. We got to tell the parents that we can't do anything about that property that is a hazard to those kids. And, you can't even see through the garbage and everything else laying in that property. Is there any way that we can hurry up and get into this? Because I've got another property about ready to turn into the same situation. It's getting to the point where we can't. Our inspectors need to turn these in earlier, or we need to do something so that this kind of situation is not popping up all over town like I'm starting to see it. I just want this to be addressed by the council for the future so that we don't have this problem. I mean, it's bad enough having houses that are open and people are breaking into them that nobody's living into and stuff like that. But when when the vegetation is so high you can't see the house, we've let it sit too long without the city addressing it. And along with this, I think that there's another trustees sale coming up in the fall.
September.
And I'd like us to really aggressively address some of these houses. I had a house 2 blocks down from me that's been condemned that somebody bought. Now I got to wait another 3 years to get it torn down. I got the Paxton warehouse down the street from me, no roof on it. walls look like they're ready to fall down. People are dumping garbage everywhere around this place. Somebody bought that. Now it's in limbo too. We need to get a strong arm on stopping some of this stuff. And I would like this council to think about this in the future to address it.
Alderman O'Kane, I would just say I take issue with some of your comments because you act as though the city has done nothing.
No,
We can-
I'm saying, I was told that we can't do anything because we don't, it takes us so long to get onto the property and stuff. When a parent calls, we ought to be able to get on that property in a timely manner and not have to wait.
Well, all I'll tell you is that we continue to do everything that we lawfully can to try to address properties. We take them through the proper channels that state law and state constitution requires, because we can't deprive people of their rights illegally or their property illegally. So we continue to do everything that we can to address them. If there's a specific property that you're concerned about, I'd be happy to talk to you about it and see what we can't do to resolve it sooner. But we do everything that we can to resolve property issues, and sometimes it doesn't come out the way we hope. Even when we get rulings in court, we can get rulings, and you know this, you've been alderman for more than a decade. We can get a court ruling. You could get a court ruling against me right now to tear down my house. But if I don't tear down my house, what's going to be done? Nothing, except that the city can tear it down.
Okay.
And as you know, we have hundreds, if not 1,000 properties that need torn down in our community. So which ones do we tear down? The ones where we get the loudest complaints, the ones that are the least safe. You know, the ones that are the least safe is probably the ones that we need to really take care of. So all I'll say is that we continue to do the best that we can. And sorry if you're disappointed.
Keep continuing looking for these laws. I've got other towns that have said that they go right in and take care of things.
Yeah. Which towns are they? Because they're probably in violation of the law.
Well, my question is, does the right of one person overrule the whole right of the rest of the citizens of the city? We gotta weigh that
The
too.
law is the law, and I swore to uphold the law. You swore to uphold the law, and I'm not going to violate the
I
law.
agree, but I mean, we've got laws that we're not even using.
Yeah, well, we're using all the laws that we can to the best of our ability, and we'll continue to. What I would also say is that this is probably the most frustrating thing as a mayor that you deal with are property issues, because it's not as easy as anyone ever thinks it would be. And the thing that I get probably the most tired of is people that you have a complaint about their home and they say, well, so what about this house? It's overgrown, it's falling in, it's blah, blah, blah. We've condemned properties a lot of times and they're still sitting there 8 years later.
Well, what is the procedure now
So
if we have a complaint and to board up a house and that we don't have possession? Can we get a warrant and get on that property to do it?
that I'm not sure about. I'll have to investigate and get back to you. But I can tell you that we do everything that we can. I also would like you to know that Alderman Pickering has met with us and provided some sample statutes for us to that other communities use with the trustee in order to prevent the sale of derelict properties. So Corporation Counsel Simon has provided us a draft of that to review so that we can hopefully bring it to you next month, that we can hopefully stop any kind of severely dilapidated property from getting in hands without the people not having to do anything about it. So we're working on it, doing everything that we can. Corporation Counsel.
We have drafted a proposed agreement that we hope that the Vermilion County trustee will include in their sale package whenever they sell a piece of property.
Corporation Counsel, I apologize. Can you please move your microphone so that we can?
Excuse me, sorry. We have drafted an proposed agreement that we hope the corporation or the Vermilion County trustee will include in their sale packet whenever they sell a piece of property that's located within the city of Danville. And what it essentially requires is the purchaser basically has to very quickly, very shortly after they acquire a deed to the property, they are to come to the city, Public Works, and start some process of assessing the property if if the building is, or the structure is in a questionable situation. We also have the vacant structure statute or ordinance, and that will be enforced. And then they're going to have to develop a plan for either demolition or improvement of the property. We also have at our disposal the fast track statute. I think I mentioned that a number of months and all. But and Mayor Williams is dead on. We have to be extremely careful. He raised the question of the community's rights versus a property owner's rights. Property owner's rights trump a community's right. Property owner has the right to own his property or her property and hopefully maintain it. We can enforce our ordinances, and our inspectors are doing a very good job of enforcing it. Some people don't have the money. The one component that we can't address, but you can, is to provide the money so Public Works can increase their staff who can work on these types of things. There are limited resources available for this. There are only so many demolitions that the city can do. We try to do them by consent. We do it in certain situations where the city absorbs the cost. Other situations where the property owner, pays the city because the city is cheaper than hiring a private demo contractor. And there are instances where if we are interested and feel the property is useful, either as a side lot or for something the city needs to do in and about that area, the city will offer to do the demo work in consideration for the property owner turning title of the property over to the city. So we have a number of means. There's still the court process, a court order demolition, but you can expect that's going to take a decent amount of time. It's not going to happen in a week, a month, 2 months, and likely not even 6 months, much less a year, because as they say, the wheels of justice move slowly. So we are doing everything we can within the bounds of the law and within the finances that the city has to do this kind of work.
And Chairman, Corporation Counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, but once we get an order, don't we only have a certain amount of time to demolish the property? And if we don't, then we lose our right to do so?
Yes, we're supposed to, there's something called for the council who's not familiar with it. I know Alderperson Pickering is because we've talked a lot about it together when she's come into my office to talk about these things. But there's something called the fast track statute. Doesn't require a court order, but you have to go through a very precise process of posting notice, identifying owners, identifying others who have an interest in the property, which means lenders, if there are any, mechanics liens, judicial liens, and any other encumbrance that may be placed on the property. Then you have to make publication, or you have to post the property, you have to notify these people, and ultimately the process has to be completed within 180 days. If that's not done, and a lot of times it can't be because we don't have the resources to do it, especially with the number of properties that are out there. By the same token, Public Works and the legal department have been working very well together on this side lot program. We have, within the last few weeks, completed 10, 15 side lot transfers. It doesn't sound like much. And before that, probably a total of 25. It doesn't sound like much, but again, these lots have to be made in such a way, prepared in such a way that the neighbor or one of the neighboring lots owners wants the property. They don't want a piece of property where they know they're going to have to demolish a structure. So we're back to city demolition. And it's time and it is money.
Yes. Alderman.
Yes, he's addressing some of these issues. Corporation Counsel, Simon, I think I talked to you about the issue there on Anderson Street, but across the street from that residence, when the inspectors came, I also inquired about a piece of property where that person passed away, and that house is just there. she didn't have any children or anybody. So that particular residence is just, the trees and weeds have just overgrown the house. So as the inspector explained to me, that house will just have to stay like that because even though she's deceased, that's still her property.
Well, it's the estate, her estate. And my guess is, given the nature of the property, she did not die with a will. And if she did, it hasn't been probated, so there's no executor. And you say she died without a will. Nobody's open an estate to get an administrator appointed who has the authority to direct the demolition. But the estate has to have money to pay for that demolition unless the city is going to pay for it and enters into an agreement. But every piece of property in this city, even though somebody may think it's abandoned, the person died, the person moved away, the person is, absent without leave, so to speak, they're still an owner. And they have to be notified when their property, when it's likely going to be demolished. There's plans to demolish it. I will tell you on one occasion, and it, really woke me up to what I knew already is the law. Somebody called me and said, "You demolished my property, my building. How can you do that? You never told me." And I checked into it. I wasn't aware this was happening. I checked into it, and notice was sent to the homeowner. She did, the letter didn't come back. It was sent by certified registered mail. The green card didn't come back, but they sometimes don't, and they're still served on the people. But we had no indication by our inspectors that the notice had not been served, and I told her that. And I confirmed with her the address, and she said that's where she's living. And so she may not have opened it, she may have rejected it, though that would have come back. Or she may have that's from the city, I don't know what it is, and she may have tossed it and all. I mean, every one of these situations, believe it or not, the mayor referenced possibly 1,000 properties that need something like that being done. Unfortunately, every one of them is owned, and every one of those involve a unique twist on something other than just money, time and money, but a unique twist.
Okay, so in this situation, because neighbors are complaining, because like she didn't have children, nobody, the house is just there and it's a wreck. And so like I told them, as far as I know, she's deceased, but she still owns the house.
Or her estate owns
Or her
it.
estate
Yeah.
owns the house, but.
But nobody's doing anything with it.
Nobody's doing anything because, of course, she didn't leave a will, she did not have an executor. So.
But she probably had some kind of relative. Most people have some relative. It could be, it could be cousins or whatever.
Danville, but she has nothing to do with that house. People have been to her about it. She said it was left to her, just only to her.
You mean the one who died?
The one who died, her aunt
Yes,
left that
but
to her.
under the laws of intestacy, things don't always, as they say, descend down to the kids or the grandkids. If there are none of those, it can descend up to the parents, and I'm sure this woman's parents are long gone, but then it comes back down to siblings or cousins or whatever. The statute on intestacy covers all that, but somebody's got to open an estate. It doesn't have to be a family member. The city could open an estate, but that.
I could do that.
You could do that, but it's time
that's
and
what I'm
money.
saying. So neighbors have inquired about that.
They can open an
It's-
estate.
It's, the house, it's been 3 years going on 4, and it's in such bad shape, no one wants to touch it because of the cost involved to.
Well,
to
that's
do
the
that.
problem. I
So-
mean,
So that house is just, my question is that house will just stay like that?
well,
Unless-
at some point, it's likely that the Vermilion County, there'll be no taxes paid on it. So the Vermilion County trustee will acquire it and then offer it for sale. Oh, and maybe that's a piece of property the city might want to buy for the $850 minimum bid, and they'll sell it to us for the minimum bid. But again, there are a lot. In fact, Logan has identified, Carl, what is it, about 25 properties? That's the next go-around we hope to purchase. We've already notified the Vermilion County trustee we want, and he gave him a whole list of properties. And the Vermilion County trustee has promised to remove that from his auction sheets, and we'll proceed. And I'm going to be working with Logan and the Vermilion County trustee to acquire those properties. But again, that's another 25. Then what we have to do is assess them. A lot of these, if not all of them, I think, Carl, you would know better than me, but a lot of them have buildings on them that probably need to come down. Or if we own them, they could be gorgeous mansions that nobody wants, and we'd have the right to take them down. However, it's time and money. If they're in CDBG areas, those funds might be available. I'm not an expert on CDBG funding, but Logan and Christina are. They know the program. So there are all kinds of things we're trying to do to move this along. It is slow. The wheels of justice move slow. The wheels of government sometimes move slow, but we are trying within our means and within our
I've tried to explain some of the things that you've already explained to me to some of the neighbors because like they're upset and rightfully so.
rightfully so.
So, pretty much what you've told me, I've already told them. So if they
That's-
have any more questions, I'll just tell them to contact you.
I would be happy to take their
Okay,
questions.
thank you for your time. And also, Carl, thanks. I have not had any complaints. I've checked with people on the mowing, so everything is
Good to hear.
rolling on that good. Thank you.
Here.
That's all.
I certainly understand Alderman Zokane's frustration. I have been in the same position at times over the years. But I have come to understand a lot of things about these things that I didn't understand before, and it's given me more patience with it, even though I don't like it. But I am certainly in favor. I know the city's not in the business of real estate, okay? But I would certainly, and I'm glad to hear it, that we're looking to buy, what'd you say, 25 or so. And I think we should, if possible, purchase as many of these really derelict, the ones that are really bad, that are affecting neighbors to a great degree. We have one down at ours. It's so bad, you walk by it, it literally makes you sick at your stomach. So, we've all got them. We've all got them. But I think, in my opinion, that if we can buy some of these, even if we just chip them off a little at a time, and get rid of them, the worst of them, start with the very, very worst of them, and get those down, and then work our way up to those that aren't as bad but still need to come down. So I'm very happy to hear that we are purchasing some of those, and I am finding out it just takes a lot of patience, and sometimes you just don't know what to do. You just feel so frustrated. You just don't know what to tell your people or how to interact with it, because you're frustrated too, and they are, and it makes it really difficult. It makes our job really, really difficult, as well as the inspectors, because they are busting themselves out there to try to get everything taken care of, and from what I see, they get very little appreciation, but I do appreciate them.
One other thing we have to remember is once we acquire title to the property, once we demolish a structure, we grade the lots and spread grass seeds on the lots, and I guess straw to keep the grass seed from the birds and to keep it in place. Well, once that grass seed starts growing, somebody's got to maintain it, and that's Carl's crew that has to maintain it. And again, I'm sure those folks have things other than just grass cutting.
And that's where that side lot, selling the side lot
Absolutely.
really is important, to see if a neighbor will take that lot, take it off the city's hands, get it back on the tax roll, and take care of it nicely so that it's a nice green lot. I'd
Hopefully,
rather see a nice green lot than a house that is derelict, falling down around the neighborhood, and the neighborhoods trying to live with that all around them. So it's a good, that side lot thing is great.
Anyone else?
I have a question
Go
for
Oh,
Michael.
yes.
For Alderman O'Kane. What was the purpose of someone buying that home if it was in that bad a shape? Was it on a demolition list or anything like that on the city, or what was the status
I
of that
think the
house?
city had it as a project, something to be demoed. I think people have got money and they're spending money on things that they're not even looking at. You know, have you been by the Paxton Warehouse in recent history?
I know
I
where
have.
it's at. I've
Yeah.
not been
There's-
by it.
The barrel roof is completely down
It's been several months since I've been
and,
by there.
and somebody's bought it.
Really.
Yeah, in the tax sale. You know, and this other house at 6 Cronkite, it's had a, you couldn't occupy it. It's been condemned for 2 or 3 years, and somebody bought it. You know, sight unseen.
They don't have an intent to repair it or anything, or do you know?
They think they're getting a house for a cheap price. They don't realize that they're not getting anything. And a lot of times these people will buy the property, then they'll walk away from it, and it puts things in limbo for 3 years.
When, Mr. Simon, when someone buys a piece of property that's in that shape, do they have a timeline where they have to update it and make it presentable or livable? Or is there no timeline on anything like that?
The only thing that would relate to that, other than just our general maintenance ordinances, is if the property is vacant and it hasn't been declared a vacant structure, they can be ordered to declare it as a vacant structure and then develop a plan. But that doesn't mean they're going to carry out the plan. And that's part of the problem with it.
If they're in New Jersey, it's hard to go after them.
Well, that's right. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I received a letter because a property owner owed fees for, I guess, I can't remember whether it was garbage or what, but city fees that are charged, whether garbage or whatever the services that they were charged for is actually taken advantage of or not. And this woman wrote me and said, how can you do this to me? How can you seek to collect the fee? And we said, you're the property owner. And they said, well, we bought these 2 properties. We went to a seminar in Las Vegas. We live in California. And it was one of these pyramid schemes, one of these goofy, frankly, illegal pyramid schemes where they bought 2 properties, one here in Danville, and I don't remember where the other was, sight unseen. And they said, well, I said, you're sophisticated buyers if you're just buying property out of state. They said, no, we're really not. We're just involved with this. And then I looked at their website, and they get involved in demo, they get involved in rehab, they get involved in flipping, they get involved in financing, they get involved in property management, they get involved in owning and leasing property. And their response is, well, that's what this group told us to put on our individual website, the one that they bought the property from. And then that group goes around buying up this property, as many other groups do, that are not local, and they get people to buy it from them at higher prices. That's how they make their money. And you've probably seen ads for these how to get rich in real estate quickly. We know somebody who did that, a very famous figure. Won't mention their name, but they take crummy property that would take a major investment, and what they do is they flip it to an unsuspecting or unwary investor, especially somebody who has never even been to Illinois, much less Danville, and it kind of keeps the cycle going. And I ultimately told this woman, I said, I don't care, you owe the money, pay it.
All right. Anybody else?
Mike?
Oh, way over there.
I have a question. You brought up the fast track. What has happened to the Gilbert Street house that burnt across from Carl? Because that was supposed to be put on the fast track.
I don't know what's happened to it. I'll have to admit, I leave the following day-to-day situation to our inspectors and all. And as you know, they get to a territory or a sector of their inspection territory once every 10 days. So you're talking, what is it, 924 Gilbert? Is that the one?
It's the one that burned across from Carl.
Right,
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure what the address
Like
was.
Goodwill, next to Goodwill.
Yeah, I'll ask them about it, and then I'll let you know.
Okay.
They put signs up on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
it's
several
been-
months
it-
ago.
And that was probably 6 weeks ago, maybe, I think.
More than that.
So, one more question. Bowman Street at 74. Carl, maybe you could answer this. Who's responsible for that when you come off of 74? Because it is awful. And I've had so many complaints about that.
It depends on where it's at. You talking about the road?
Yes, on Bowman.
That's the city. It's closer to,
There's a portion, so there's,
yeah. But I
say
think
by the
that's
air gas place,
Yes.
south of that, it's the
74
is the
is
states.
state, but north
And then
of
once you get to our
It
concrete,
is.
which is slightly better than their terrible stuff, we'll take, that's the good part.
So what part is
So.
the state responsible for?
Roughly the air gas, which I can't remember that. It's like an old former alley.
It's not
Bark Street.
It's Bark Street
The
South.
Bark Street South, roughly. So, and I know the state is working on planning phase for improvements to that area. I mean, it's multiple years off. I would guess it's on the 5-year timeline. So, I think unfortunately we're tasked with doing maintenance type stuff on those things, like trying to limp them along. But, that's certainly something that's on their radar. They just don't get to deal with it every day like you all do. So
How far south from air gas is the state?
I think the state, I think it's the state's all the way to Perrysville Road.
It is,
Yeah.
all the way to Perrysville Road,
And then a portion of Perrysville Road there, as well. So
north of,
North of air gas also has some bad spots. That's where I go to my kid's house all the time.
yeah, I can't remember the exact line, but so we were experiencing on the city's portion of the roadway, we were experiencing quite a bit of deterioration at the joints in the pavement. So our crews went in and basically Durapatched these, which is an effective way to, basically keep the water out and hopefully prevent them from cracking, but it has created a bit rougher ride. We wish there was a more cost-effective and probably better solution than that we have, but we don't, internally at this point. We're hopeful that we'll have a good snowplow season and it'll peel off the rough ride on top, but we'll monitor that. And it's certainly something that we talk about, regularly. I know the mayor has told me people at church let him know that that's not a very fun ride going to church. And anyway, yeah. So anyway.
I think it's once again, just like the housing, just be patient. As Sam said, there are plans by the state. Actually, they'll be doing quite a bit of work in there that will alleviate several areas that the city is responsible for as well. And some bad road issues in that entire area will be alleviated, but we're just going to have to be patient with the state.
I'm looking around. Anyone else? Okay. Having satisfied the agenda, item number 13, adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Is that pie?
You can hear at the same time. I think.
scales, then I made it in a
Fish
pile of rocks,
scales.
and I was pile of rocks in a basket.